Ohio State to me has been a little inconsistent thus far, and inconsistent in the way that they haven't taken that next step. They've had some really good games. They've had some good offensive output. The way that they looked in the second half against Maryland when they were asked to just flip the switch, go win that football game, they looked really good. But at the same time, Penn State's looked dominant, but against a bunch of nobodies. They beat West Virginia, who couldn't hang on to a lead in the final seconds against Houston. They beat Iowa, which we know is a dumpster fire, but somehow still only has one loss. And they've beaten Illinois. They haven't really been challenged thus far. Ohio State has. And I look at what Ohio State did against Notre Dame, and I see so many comparisons to that to that Notre Dame roster to Penn State's. And I think that it is very advantageous for Ohio State that they've already played a really similar team and they're getting to do it at home, that they are going to have the leg up in this game.
Gosh, you look at all we talked about in the offseason was if Penn State was going to be ready to make that jump and really compete with the top two in the Big Ten. That's all we talked about when it came to Penn State was, look, they might finally have a team. And now it's October, and I don't know if I can say they do. And they have a bad record against Ohio State. They haven't beaten Ohio State since 2016, and that was 21-24. The last years to come after that, Ohio State win 39-38, 27-26, 28-17, 38-25, 33-24, 44-31, most recently in 2022. It has been a little tight in a couple games, but for the most part, this is Ohio State just taking care of business and just saying, okay, James Franklin, whoever you want to bring in here, you might have some good players, but you're not going to beat us. And they don't. So if this game was being played in week 2, I would probably be more in on Penn State. Now that we've had enough of a sample size to look at them and look at their faults, they're great enough for me to say, it's probably going to go Ohio State. Just looking at it from that perspective, I have seen too much of them to believe that they can beat Ohio State.
So, okay, there's a lot there. You're basically getting at here that you think that Ohio State has the advantage, is what you're saying.
I think that Penn State might match up well against them defensively. They have a good defense with good defensive backs. But on offense, I feel like they will come into this game a little bit inept. They just do not have the talent on the outside. And it might look a lot like that Notre Dame-Ohio State game. It might look a lot like that, but I think Notre Dame might have a better quarterback.
See, Notre Dame has the more experienced quarterback, but Drew Allar is more physically gifted. Like, he is more of a runner. And he has actually been an extension of the running game for them. So I think on Penn State's side, that really helps them. And one of the things I quickly just wrote down like a talking point for this game, it really comes down to, if Penn State wins this game, does Drew Allar do something to take it over? Does he extend plays with his legs and find guys as plays are unraveling? Because I'm telling you right now, those receivers that have been, they've been bad. I'm going to go as far as to say they've been bad. If you have watched I've watched too many Penn State games. I've watched too much Penn State film. All of their offensive production comes from their running backs. And I'm talking about passing production. It comes from Katron Allen and Nick Singleton and their two really good tight ends. Outside of Keandre Lambert-Smith, they don't really have anybody. They don't have any receivers that have taken over. Go pull up all their box scores over the actually competent Big Ten teams that they've played. I don't want to see the Delaware or UMass box scores. They don't have any receiver production. And that, to me, is going to hurt them in this game. Not because Ohio State has an elite secondary. They've got a pretty good secondary. I love Ransom. He's a really good football player. But because of how good their defensive line has been, if your receivers aren't getting open quick enough and this happened against Notre Dame, they're going to get home. They're going to cause pressures. They're going to cause problems. Does Allar evade that stuff? Does he extend plays? Does he get the ball off? That's what I think for me is it's really, really going to come down to.
Yeah, I took you up on your offer. I guess the most competent team they've played is Iowa. So sure.
Yeah,
And
pull up
they beat
those
him.
passing statistics.
They beat him 31-0. Keandre Lambert-Smith led with eight catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Theo Johnson 6 for 42. Liam Clifford 2 for 17. Tyson Potts 1 for 16. Dante Cephas 1 for 11. Yeah, this is
It is
Aller threw for 4
not
touchdowns
good.
that game still.
I think a couple of them were to tight ends too, though. That's
Yeah.
my point.
I don't know what the hell you're doing with this team. I do
This
not
is
know.
at Ohio State too, though. Like that to me is like the really defining piece to this is if this was on the road and if Ohio State won last year at Penn State, I think it's donezo, man. You gotta be smart here. We gotta pick the team that clearly has the advantage.
November 23rd. Just put the turkey in, cooked. That's what it is. They're done for.
Damn.
That's
all it took?
You know what? That might have been all it took. I still thought Penn State was going to come in and not win, but I'm not trying to say anything that gets me on a hype video, which it won't. But in theory, I think
you're
it's
a buffoon. No one's putting you on a hype
always
video.
Good to try to avoid saying things that would hypothetically be in the opposing team's hype video that you're talking about. It does not look good for Penn State going into this game with Ohio State at home, and they're still looking to the final game against the guys up north. So
now the chaos would be great, but I just don't think that's going to happen. All right.